Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche organization with your daily video update for March 10th, 2025. Well, it was only 10 days ago that President Trump had his showdown with President Zelensky of Ukraine, where Trump said to him, "You don't have the cards." Now, I don't usually cite country music to make a point, but the scene 10 days ago in the Oval Office reminded me very much of the Kenny Rogers song, in which the lyrics go, "You've got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run." Now, what Trump said to Zelensky was, "You're gambling with World War III. Either you make a deal or we're out." And from that time to the present, the president suspended the shipment of weapons and money to Ukraine, and at the same time, he has cut off intelligence sharing. Now, Trump is pushing Zelensky to reach an agreement to end the war in Ukraine, the war between Ukraine as a proxy for NATO against Russia. And what he said, just adding to what he said in Washington, was he said to Zelensky, "You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position. You don't have the cards with us." And Zelensky quipped, "Well, I'm not playing cards." Well, he is gambling with World War III. And the decision made by Biden to justify the use of long-range missiles from Ukraine, basically operated by NATO, to target sites inside Russia, put us on a course that could have brought us very quickly to a world war and a nuclear war. That is, a war of Russia attacking NATO. Now, the idea that Zelensky thinks he can win back the support of Trump is one that should not bring any comfort to anyone, especially given that the Russians have made it clear they're not going to make a deal. So Zelensky thinks that either he can convince Trump to back him or that Europe will back him. Now, that's a bad decision. Europe's leaders are a gang of fools. To paraphrase Pepe Escobar, he said, "Watching them is like watching an endless repeat of a Monty Python sketch." Now, at this point, there's a meeting set for U.S. officials with the Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia tomorrow. Marco Rubio will be there, along with National Security Advisor Waltz and Trump's special representative, Steve Witkoff. Now, it's expected that Zelensky will be at the meeting. So what's going to happen at this meeting? Will Zelensky announce that he's accepting terms for a deal, or is he going to continue to insist that there's no deal unless Russia accepts a pullback from Ukrainian territory? Now, Trump said the meeting is to see if Ukraine is serious. And he said, "You can't say I want peace and then say I refuse to compromise in order to get an agreement." Now, the European side is even more crazy. The idea that Europe is going to replace the United States as the force to build up Ukraine against Russia when the European defense sector is very weak. Even the new incoming chancellor in Germany, Merz, said for Germany to send more weapons, they're going to have to buy more from the United States. So how is that going to work? How is that going to build up Ukraine? How is that going to protect Europe from Russia? Now, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Council, said that they're going to put together an 800 billion euro package. And Merz said there'll be a 400 billion package from Germany. Macron is talking about extending the French nuclear umbrella to protect all of Europe. And Macron and Starmer have talked about, besides aid, the possibility of boots on the ground. Now, the problem from Zelensky is that he says Putin doesn't want peace and that Russia will attack European countries if Ukraine fails? Well, he's just lost whatever cards he thought he had. The offensive by Ukraine into Russian territory, into the Kursk region, appears to be pretty much beaten as of the last couple of days. The Ukrainian troops are surrounded, they're cut off, and it's unlikely that they're going to survive. Now, at the same time, Zelensky is agreeing, it looks like he's agreeing, to trade the strategic minerals of Ukraine to the United States as a basis for securing a deal that the U.S. will protect Ukraine. Now, this is somewhat bizarre to me. First of all, it now appears that there are very few or very little in the way of these strategic metals and minerals, maybe trace elements, but most of them are in the Russian side of the Dnieper River. And secondly, if he's willing to trade away the resources, how is he defending Ukraine? He already signed over large packets of land, Ukrainian land, to BlackRock and to the grain cartels. So it's not exactly a robust defense of his nation that he's carrying out. Now, just to finish the point here, the U.S. media continues to be pushing for war, attacking Trump, saying that Trump is a buddy of Putin. They're replaying the old themes from Russiagate. What is it that Putin has on Trump? Why does Trump trust Putin? Well, maybe there's an understanding there, as Trump said, that he can understand why Putin is doing what he's doing. But the Washington Post gave an indication of how bad the U.S. media is in their coverage today, where they criticized Trump, saying that Trump believes that NATO expansion provoked Russia and that Ukraine turned down a peace deal. Both of those are completely true. Trump is absolutely right that NATO expansion was a provocation for the same reason that John F. Kennedy, as president, responded to the Soviet missiles that were planted in Cuba in 1962. So the idea that Russia was unprovoked, all you have to do, and I've gone through this repeatedly, Jeffrey Sachs has gone through it, Scott Ritter has gone through it, that the policy toward Russia after the peaceful dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1992 has been attack, 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 and undermine, and lie, repeatedly lie. So it's not a question of not trusting Putin. Why should anyone in Russia trust the Western allies of Zelensky? So this was not an example of Trump dishonesty, but an example of the corruption of the Western media. So this is the big picture that's been blacked out of the U.S. press. And the big picture is that we're at the end of an era, that Biden tried to extend the era of European colonialism long after the due date came due. And the world is no longer willing to accept European colonialism, and certainly not Russia, nor China, nor India, nor South Africa. And so you have a shift in the world toward the BRICS, toward the alliance that's saying that we will no longer bow down to the demands of the Western imperial City of London forces. So that's a good thing, and that's something which should be embraced. Now, I'm appending linking, I should say, to the description section, a statement from Helga Zepp-LaRouche on Europe, on what's wrong with Europe, and why there should be support for the peace initiative in Ukraine. I want you to read it, think about it, sign it, and circulate it. Every elected official in the United States should be asked to sign it, to show support for the idea that the United States is seeking peace and a new security and development architecture, as opposed to paying huge sums for a losing war that's increasing the casualties of the Ukrainian people every single day. So take the resolution, read it, sign it, circulate it, and I'll see you again tomorrow.